Hi folks, happy to have you here on the PXM Semantics Meetup channel. Here you will find every 14 days our latest video from our Meetup where we're discussing with experts and customers about the opportunities of content automation. If you have any questions, just write it in the comments. We will answer them as soon as possible. And don't forget to subscribe our channel. Then we will see you next time here on this channel.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and welcome everybody to the AX Meetup. I'm Ruppert of Contentserv, and today I'd like to speak about how companies can place appealing content across channels to bring about a better customer experience, or an ideal one. I am working for Contentserv. I'm responsible for product organization for the products we offer. If you have any questions after the webinar, feel free to get in touch. At any point in time, you can contact me through email, and I'm available for any kind of questions and conversations. So please get in touch if you want to speak about something. What am I going to talk about today? I'd like to touch on two topics. For those who know the topic of product experience management, who are not aware of it so much, I'd like to describe what we view as PXM 1.0. Customers that have such a solution, what were they able to achieve and what are they still achieving, and why are they introducing such a solution, Contentserv customers in particular. And I would like to shed some light on the future. What is the next step of logic? What are things that are arising already, and what will be even more relevant in future? And last but not least, I would like to speak about how these new topics that we call PXM 2.0, how can we achieve the goals, and what do I have to take into account to achieve the goals? This is what I'm going to speak about. First of all, let's look back a bit to the past. If you think about the reasons why Contentserv customers introduced Contentserv, why are they using a PXM solution? And I'm going to give you some generic information. They had a certain mission, that is a consistent, high quality and up-to-date product content in every channel. They are interacting through with the customer and to provide this content so as to offer a better customer experience across the channels, to make sure that there are no contradictory pieces of information. This is the fundamental mission why I usually introduce a PXM solution. And associated with that, I have some important goals. Usually I want to have a single source of truth. I want to avoid that I have different systems or files storing product information in an overlapping manner. I want to have it managed only once. And I also want to avoid that different departments use local files or use Excel files. And one important point in this process, in this enriching process, in which I enrich data from my processes, everybody who is involved in the process needs to know what he or she has to do. And if some information is missing, it needs to be clear who is responsible, who has to meet his or her tasks. And these are typical goals I can solve with PXM 1.0. If I achieve the goals, I usually have the following business outcome. I have more efficiency in my processes. As I digitize, everybody knows what to do. And there is more capacity vacant in my teams, and I have a faster time to market. The products can be launched faster, and thanks to the higher product quality in the channels, I also usually have lower return rates, and this saves time and money. And thanks to the higher product quality, information quality, I usually have a higher conversion rate, and thanks to the higher conversion rate, I have higher sales I can achieve. And as a company, I'm better positioned, I have more efficient processes, and I have clarity about responsibilities, who does what. I'm usually able to be faster, to include new sales channels where the products can be offered. This, in a nutshell, is the rationale. This is the target and the mission I usually have if I want to have a PXM solution. In order to show it to you in a more visual way, what does that mean if I have achieved this outcome? This is largely simplified, but it's just to show you how it works. I have my product information. This is an example of the impact range. It's a high quality. I offer the right information in my channels. There's an online store with a full view and then some functionalities, pictures with the details of the product and a product description, some bullet points or product highlights that are available. All in all, I offer the full information and the buyer can make a decision in this channel. And I use that through all the touch points where I want to be present with my products, and this leads me to a high consistency and quality across the channels. One thing that I'm not doing is I'm not thinking about, when describing the product, the target groups that there are in the channels. What are the target groups that are in these channels, and how can I use the product in a more relevant way? This means even if I have high quality across different channels, I still have a kind of one-size-fits-all solution. That means I'm not actually dwelling or addressing my customers' real needs. If you compare it to marketing campaigns, money marketing invests in order to plan a campaign for a certain target group. Content is created, assets are created. You see that a lot of work is involved in order to have a target group-oriented marketing. But when we speak about pure product information, that's usually the end of the journey or the last step in this customer journey, where I want to make the customer buy the product because it's relevant. Well, then usually no matter what campaign guided me through the product is usually described in the same way, no matter who watches or who wants to buy the product. And this is one of the topics where we want to support our customers and companies in future to tap more potential. At Contentserv, when speaking about channels and product information, where are they relevant, we have a kind of clustering that we carried out. On the one hand, we've got what we call the standardized channels, B2B to B2C. I have channels, and usually I have a high reach that I can achieve with my products. But I'm very limited with regard to the brand and the way in which I can present my products. As a company, it's more, on the one hand, it's B2B. I have data pools with certain standards and classifications that I have to adhere to, and standard formats. I have to adhere to B2B catalogs that I have to send to my B2B customers in an electronic way directly. And then platforms and some focus on B2C. It always depends on the industry I'm active in, where I want to sell my products as a vendor on Amazon or a seller on social commerce, Instagram, Facebook, etc. So it all depends on the channels, but they have one thing in common. They tell me as a company how to present myself as a brand, as a company with my products, because there are technical limits. These are very important channels for our customers, and this is why we support them in doing it with utmost efficiency. But we have a focus on, and where we see a huge opportunity for customers, is the second type of channel, where I, as a company, have the full freedom. I'm fully free to present myself as a brand, as a company, but also with regards to the product I want to present. These are things that I usually own as a company, my own website, my own web shop. And if I'm a brand manufacturer, having dedicated brand stores, it can also be the point of sale. If I work in B2B, it can be a brand portal during which I cooperate with my B2B partners and share my information. These are channels that allow me to have a more personalized cross-channel addressing of the customers. And this is why we are saying it is in this cluster of systems that we see a huge opportunity to bring about this experience and to differentiate ourselves. Whereas in the standardized channels, I can achieve a higher reach, but I'm not that flexible and I'm not fully free. And in the channels where we are fully free, we see a lot of potential. And in addition to that, there is the mission our customers have. We have adapted it slightly. It is still important to have consistent, high quality, up-to-date and product content in every channel, to have that consistency where we deliver the content to bring about an efficient customer journey. But I would also like to have more relevant product content. So what is more relevant? We could discuss about that, and there are certainly different points I could think about what I can do to make my product more target group relevant. I have brought a very simplified example for B2B in order to give you a feeling what I'm talking about and what we are working on at Contentserv to support our customers. In B2B, for instance, you want to segment your customers, if that's what you want to do, and you want to serve the different personas. Here I've got Sebastian. He is a construction worker, he's a professional there. And then I've got the woodworker, Marcus, and Bob, who works in the automotive industry. And then there might, so the aim is to define certain personas. Maybe it's too much for B2B, but I can just segment my customers into different industries or groups of companies. And then I think about their interests and about how my products can be of greater interest for them in the different categories. And if you structure the information a bit about the product on the left-hand side, you see what we have always done with the PXM system. I have all the information, relatively high quality product information that I can use in the different channels. In the middle, where you see context, and the industry is just one example. How can I create more context? How can I generate more information using the product that are tailor-made and targeted to a certain customer group? Here you've got industry A, B, and C. I can say, for instance, I only want to show the product highlights in a different order. The most relevant product highlights for industry A are ranking top, and other product highlights that are more relevant for industry B will be shown first on top of the list when addressing industry B. And I can show different images and videos, and I can show them in the context of concrete application cases, so use cases, and I can contextualize it. And at the end, what I want to do is to show the information across all the channels, wherever I have the technical possibility. This means if somebody buys a product through the online shop, that's contextualized. And then through newsletter or POS, this is another touch point with us. There are cross-selling products, maybe, or upselling products. And in my central system, I have contextualized information for this customer group. I, of course, want to use the information. I want to make sure that I can do that in a consistent way across all the different touch points. Just to illustrate this a bit further, in order to give you a feeling for what I mean, let me share the following with you. There's one thing you see right away. That's the example I showed you before. The images, the pictures are very important. If you have pictures that are relevant for the industry or the use case, the application, that's important. But what is also important is the text-based information. I've mentioned the product highlights already, the order, the sequence, what highlights are relevant, but also variation of the texts through the same feature. At the bottom, you see the same feature. If I go to the next slide, for instance, for the woodworker, you see that the variable speed trigger with electric brake provides user control depending on the depth and thickness of wood. And for automotive, I have variable speed trigger, the same feature of the product, provides user improved control and appropriate use for tire versus engine. It's not necessarily the best example, but in order to contextualize it, you have to be a product expert, of course, and you have to have an understanding and knowledge about your customers. But this here has a lot of potential to describe the product at the product detail page, to customize it, to highlight. This is just to highlight a bit what this could look like. And when showing this to our customers or to interested parties, usually there's a varied feedback depending on who I'm talking to and who's around the table. For instance, when I talk to marketing, the reaction usually is they're used to that already, the target group definition, campaign, a lot of content, many assets for different target groups is drawn up, needs to be generated to be used in the different campaigns. They know that. This is why they are usually very euphoric, and they also understand the relevance of the topic. But usually we also have those colleagues around the table who are responsible for providing a high quality information about the product and the complete product. The content or product managers usually look like that, because this means a lot of work, and many companies, at least the customers we are talking to, interested parties we are talking to, very often they are shying away from PXM 1.0 to have the high quality across the channels. Very often they are still in the midst of that process. And this is why this is another workload on top for them. So we should complete the first point first. But in any event, the super relevant argument is if the content manager says, I have thousands and thousands of products, and I would have to draw them up in 3 or 4 different versions, I mean, that's a lot of work, that's clear. But I would just like to mention 3 different points that are relevant from my point of view that I have to bear in mind when positioning myself well in order to be able to start all this. It's not the only point, or these are not the only points, but they're important. The first milestone to have a product experience management solution, it's important, and one content automation system is important to have an orchestrated process. And in order to achieve all this, one important basis is exactly this. And another thing that's very relevant, and that's content automation in addition to PXM 1.0. If I have a very performant and orchestrated process, how can I eliminate manual tasks further to have more capacity available with my team to tackle the other topic? And then there's a third point, which is also very high level, but very important. If I want to describe a product for a certain customer group, I also need to give the relevant information and to have the information close to the product. The product information has to be given together with the customer information. As a content manager, I have to have the information available. The persona, the segment, whatever I use to describe the customer needs to be available in the product information system. These are 3 very important topics you have to focus on and concentrate on in order to have all this be scalable. And independently from that, there's another relevant topic when discussing with our customers, and that is whether or not this topic is relevant for me as a company in the first place. Personalization, contextualization, should I invest there? Is it relevant in my industry? Can I reach more conversion through it? And well, it doesn't necessarily depend on love, but it has to do with emotion. There is no demarcation line where it makes sense and where it doesn't make sense. But I think that one important indicator is to see that every product I associate an emotion with, or I can attach an emotion to, has the potential to benefit from a contextualization so that the product is even more relevant for the customer. And in order to make this a little bit more tangible, And to tell you what customer profile I see, I've brought some Contentserv customers. We have many brand manufacturers, B2B, B2C. We support in all this. And I think these are topics or customers where I find that this is very relevant. This customer, they produce mustard, amongst other things, but they have many different brands in the market. This is a rather low price product, a barbecue sauce. The margins are not very high, but if I do it efficiently, I still think that contextualization can be very relevant because it is a very emotional product. Those who love barbecues, to them, the right barbecue sauce is important. And they spend more money on that because if it's linked to a certain emotion. Then there's another example that's rather a no-brainer. This is our customers, Specialized. It's a brand manufacturer for bicycles and e-bikes. And usually the customer undertakes a lot of research work. There's a high margin, expensive products, and this is why the emotional level is very high as well. This would be an ideal customer to contextualize the product information and to customize the information. And then one last example, so as to shed some light on B2B and B2C. This is Electrolux, one of our customers. In both areas, they act as a brand in many different markets, and they present themselves in different brands. They have B2C products, be it the laundry machine or the refrigerator at home. And in B2B, they have industrial dishwashers or industrial refrigerators, products with many functionalities and features. And it really makes sense to emphasize the most important functionalities and product highlights for my individual case. And this is why this is very relevant for such a company to tackle this topic. In conclusion, I'd like to share our Contentserv view, and that is do it in a central system. This changed from what we did in the past. In the past, we were saying manage the situation centrally, manage it and use it across all the different touch points you interact through with your customers, so as to be able to use everything for all the channels. So this has changed, and this is all I wanted to share with you. Thank you very much.